Welcome to our second panel. Before we get started with our panel, we do have some announcements from some of our sponsors and partners. So once again, let's hear it for Ken and Cordify. Applause.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ken. I'm from Codify. We do software development for startups. Our services include anything from idea to MVP, and then we also do a specialized service called fractional CTO services. So basically, we help startups grow from the early stage, ideation stage, to MVP and anything beyond that. We are based here in Sunnyvale. We have our tech center based out of South India, is a city called Trivandrum, and we've been doing this for about 10 years now. So so far we've seen about maybe 15 to 20 startups or more than that going through we built MVPs for more than 35 startups, and we have a desk outside. Come talk to us, and we'll talk more if you have some interesting things to talk about. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Stephen from CLA. Applause.
All right. Thank you, Rob. Hey, everybody, I'm Stephen Estes, and we are CLA. And that is not my phone going off, but thank you very much. We are CLA, a professional service provider that specializes in audit, tax, and accounting services. We specialize in helping tech companies as they go from being incubator to IPO. All the meanwhile, we go from being your accountant to your trusted advisor. So if you've got questions about tax or what sort of entity is right for you, come chat with us, and we'll help you get there. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, next up we have Nikki from CSPA. Applause.
CSPA stands for California Software Professional Association. It is a 501c3 nonprofit with a mission for collaboration, innovation, and leadership. We will be hosting our third Future of Sustainability panel on Wednesday, February 7th. If you're a climate hero, I hope to see you there. Thank you.
All right, so our next panel is Venture Capital Panel, Investment and Latest Innovations in AI.
Come on!
Hang on. So
They
here's
gave
the-
me a microphone.
I'm not done.
He's
So
not
here's
done.
the format. Our panel will hold a brilliant, compelling, dynamic, entertaining, and scintillating discussion for about 50 minutes, right? Then we will have roughly 30 minutes of audience Q&A, and that'll take us to a short break, and then our final panel will be a little after 7 p.m. tonight. So at this point, I'm going to hand it off to our distinguished moderator. That's you,
That's
Dr.
me.
Dr. Stephen Colby, partner at Ramon Law. So let's give it up for Steve and our panel.
Okay, folks, welcome. And this is the exciting part of the evening, so I'm so glad you were able to come for this particular panel because this is going to be the best. When I do panels, I think WWE. It's best if I get some questions where there's some disagreements and we get some movement here and some excitement among the panelists. So if you guys see an opportunity, don't hesitate to speak out and cheer an answer. Okay, we're not going to do questions right off the top. But if you see an opportunity to cheer one of the participants, not the competitors, in my panel, don't hesitate to do so. So I should introduce myself. I'm Stephen Colby, and I am a patent attorney. I'm a partner at Ramon Law. I'm also associated with at least one venture capital group, which I think Deborah will talk about maybe in her introduction. And I've been in the Valley since the mid-90s. I love startups. It's my favorite thing in the world. I've had a few of them. You know, I've had children too. They both turned out about the same. So anyway, I'm going to start off and I'm going to start at the far end here and let our panelists introduce themselves because apparently they know themselves best. So let's start off right here.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having us here. I'm Evangelos Simoudis. I'm a general partner at Synapse Partners. Synapse Partners is an early stage venture firm that invests in exclusively in startups that develop enterprise software AI applications. And in addition to doing this, or maybe in order to do a better job at the investment, we partner with corporations from a variety of industries with whom sometimes we co-invest, but primarily we get insight from. I've been in this area since 1990. Working in a variety of capacities. I've been in the venture side since 2000, but started working in AI in 1982. So I have some perspectives.
My name is Apoorva Pandhi, and I represent Zetta Ventures. And Zetta Ventures has been around for almost a decade. It was founded as an AI native venture fund back in 2013. When AI was considered niche. Now everyone is investing in that space. It was called Zetta because that was the first year when a zettabyte of data crossed the internet. And since then, we're now investing out of a $180 million fund. So we lead or co-lead seed stage investments, inception stage rounds in 3 core areas. It's the entire stack of AI, which is from the infrastructure layer to the application layer. We also do like data infrastructure, which is the enabling technology for getting a company AI ready, as well as developer tools. My background has been across venture as well as in operating. Used to be at Foundation Capital and Lightspeed Ventures more than a decade back. And in between, I've been a founder. And after exiting that company, was leading sales and go-to-market for other data and AI companies. Otherwise, I'm an engineer by heart and love everything tech first.
I'm Deborah Magid. I've spent many, many years at IBM Ventures and have known Evangelos for almost that amount of time. And at IBM, we only started investing a couple of years ago. Before that, I was doing strategy work and M&A, deal sourcing, doing triage on possible strategic alliances with brand new companies, always through the venture community and work globally, and always with startups. I left IBM in July and did a number of things. I think a couple of you have seen me at some Pitch Global and other events. But now I'm on a path to start a new early stage fund that will invest in AI and things that AI is applied to, like cybersecurity, biotech, agriculture, and all the fun things. And I will be joined in this endeavor by Stephen. Yay. More on that later.
I'm not giving up my day
Hasn't
job.
been launched yet, but it will be. Oh, I have to say one more thing. I am so excited that technology has embraced AI and that it's really becoming real, because many years ago, my graduate degree was in cognitive psychology and linguistics. I feel vindicated.
Hi, everybody. My name is Darwin Ling. I'm the founder and general partner of Good.ai Capital. Good.ai Capital is an early-stage VC fund. We focus on AI companies in 3 different sectors, particularly is the enterprise, healthcare, as well as the automation. By enterprise is anything that these panelists has mentioned, really anything that is non-consumer facing. We focus on cybersecurity, DevOps, all the way with data management to fintech operations, anything that is non-customer facing. And for healthcare, we want to focus on, there's several areas that we focus on, is life sciences, digital healthcare, and also for automation, we want to focus on anything that is focusing on robotics, drones, and potential autonomous driving. So our name is an interesting name. We call ourselves the Good.ai Capital. It's not because we only invest in good quality companies, but actually it's a reflection of our mission. Our mission is to doing good, doing well. So we want to partner with founders who have a deep desire to use technologies, in this case is AI, to tackle some of the most challenging problems faced across different industries. And this is how we get the name of Good.ai Capital. And finally, personally, before launching my fund, Like many of you, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a founder, and I'm an engineer. So my last company, we're focusing on building AI company for us to improve sales productivity. Our customers include a Fortune 500 company like GE and Home Depot. We sold a company in 2018 and decided to launch this fund to, I think my goal is to nurture the next generation entrepreneurs and help them to succeed in this challenging world of entrepreneurship.
Great. Thanks very much. So, yes, see, we got some applause. Good. Yeah. All right, let's get some excitement going here, okay? This is AI. So I'm going to start off with exactly that. It's been a great year. I did a panel in December of 2022, so about 14 months ago, with venture capitalists and the subject of the panel was, what's the next big thing? And in my notes, I went and looked back. There's not a really discussion of AI. So in the, right? This was just before OpenAI, right? I would say that half the software I've done, IP I've done in the last year is AI related. My question for the panel is going to be, and I'm going to start here with Darwin. What is the most exciting thing that you've seen in the last year that is made you excited about the future and potential of AI?
Well, I guess it's not just me, right? If you have lived in a cave, then you probably don't know this thing called ChatGPT and OpenAI. But of course, everybody who come here is aware of that. I guess it's a cliche. This is something where I feel very excited about. But I think as you heard what we talked about, I think we focus on sort of the idea called applied AI. So I think what's missing from the kind of general trend that we see right now, from the kind of the movement of this OpenAI, the large language model, is really focusing on, I think it's a land grab to us. There's a lot of problems that hasn't been solved. So what makes us excited is really there's a lot of innovations, particularly in the healthcare, life sciences, and drug development. These are precision medicine. These are yet, you don't see it in the kind of like I guess, the media every day. But this is actually deep in development, and a lot of our portfolio companies, founders that we work with, they're doing impactful things and potentially creating new drugs that can cure cancer, new things, gene cell therapies that are coming out that are curing all these different rare diseases. Then we're extremely excited about that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't get excited about ChatGPT because it can write my resume better than I do it. Or that if I ever go back to school, which by the way I won't, I could, cheat on a paper. But I get excited about some of those same things. I get very excited about the fact that there's some biotech companies that have discovered new molecules, new proteins, and therefore new cures, new drugs using AI. And that's really amazing. It's keeping us safe. It's keeping us safe from some of the things happening in climate. It's keeping us safe in the food supply. It's keeping us safe in the way a Waymo car might drive through my town of Burlingame, which makes me nervous. And it's just keeping us safe from a lot of things. There are issues, there are risks and rewards, and we talk about those later, but there's a lot of exciting stuff happening.
I guess if I would step back, I would think of like three core areas. One is it's quite unprecedented to see that in the past, historically, we've always seen that research, academia, operators, and investors used to be very staggered in the way they used to think about things. Research used to come before, and operators used to catch on to that, and investors used to follow. I think this is an unprecedented time where there's a convergence of all those three things. Academia, research, investors are all learning things about Gen AI and what AI could do at the same time, at the same pace, which is incredible. And that helps, like, even academics feel that industry comes out with the next innovation before academia thinks about it, which is unique compared to what's happened in the past. Second is, I feel like historically, we had AI as a part of our product experiences. Deep learning has been core part of whether it's content moderation on social media, whether it's the emergency automated braking system in cars. Like, it's being a part of different product experiences. So the first time AI has created a UX revolution which encourages enterprises to think AI first, which has unlocked a lot of budgets in the enterprise, which were not there before. And enterprises weren't as keen to buy AI. They just wanted to think about like what products you're selling, which is great because you need to still build products that solve your core pain points. But now there is a special place for AI within enterprises, and that's all thanks to a UX revolution. And third is, it's also unprecedented to see like so many amazing practitioners leave their stable jobs and start companies. I think the number of incredible people that I've met in the last 1 year is more than the number of people that I've met in my entire journey in venture who are excited about building things. I think those three things are kind of new and unprecedented, at least for me, in the last 1 year.
So I'll also mention three things, and I'll start with something around in our portfolio. So we invested in a company called Divergent 3D, which is based in Los Angeles and has developed a complete manufacturing system that is driving additive manufacturing. And at the core of it is AI. That's why we invested. Now, what is interesting about it is that through the use of AI, they are creating structures which go into vehicles. So Ferraris, for example, and Aston Martins now have major components coming from this company. But now they're finding that the same technology is starting to be applied to vehicles used for various aspects of national defense. So this is a really big deal in being able to essentially have a system that uses AI to discover new structures that make it into real things, vehicles that maybe not all of us drive, but some can drive, and other kind of vehicles that very few people have access to. The second thing I would mention is even though there's been a lot of negative noise, particularly in San Francisco, around autonomous vehicles, we have made great progress in autonomous vehicles. I've been involved in this space for over 10 years now and have written a number of books about it, in addition to making a number of investments, relevant investments. But if you look at whether it is in China, whether it is in the United States, whether it is in Europe, we're seeing autonomous robotic vehicles not only as robotaxis, but in a variety of applications. And that's a point that I don't think that DARPA, which started the first challenge back in 2005, 2006, they could fathom. Again, more progress needs to be made, more money needs to be invested, but we should not lose sight of that fact. The final point is, again, there's a lot of talk about generative AI, particularly the last, 18 months. I think what is important there is not so much the fact that we have these LLMs, but these LLMs can be part of agent systems. And agent systems are ones that can perceive, they can reason, and then they can act. And with LLMs, we have a very important component for such systems, but this is not the only component. And the realization, I mean, if you look at systems like Alpha Geometry that DeepMind recently released, it uses an LLM, but it uses a lot more knowledge graphs, ability to reason, big memory structures, so that it can do what it does. And that's where the magic is going to happen. So going forward, it is not the chatbots that are going to wow us. It's going to be the agents that are wow us. And in order to have agency, you need to have more than a chatbot.
All right. Great, thanks. For people who have been investing in AI for 10 years, 12 years or more, how have things changed from an investment point of view in the last year? I can imagine that 14 months ago, an easy investment is going to be much more expensive than it is now. Can you guys, for those of you that are actually focused on Darwin, can you talk about that?
So I will be crass and say every Tom, Dick, and Harry thinks that they have an AI solution. And I will also venture to say, even though we do see some amazing people coming through, we see a lot of pretenders, unfortunately. And that's not good for the field. This is my fourth AI spring, if you want to call it. And so I've seen every AI spring be followed by really harsh winters. And the harsh winters are due to the fact that people make claims that can never be met or cannot be met in the timeline that we were talking about. So I think that what is different is this, when you have this sense of awe of something, and I think the GPTs have created a sense of awe in the community, that unleashes a lot of creativity. So I think that's different. The other thing that is different is that we have nosebleed valuations, which is not particularly good. And how we're going, and that creates problems in terms of how we're going to exit these companies that command 100 billion, valuation or 50 billion valuation, right? So, but these are different things that at least we've seen over the past 14 months or so.
I want to add, I think one point is great, that there's a lot of noise, and so the signal versus noise there's a big issue with that, and wherever there's signal, you get to see like really high valuations. But at the same time, you also see enterprises wanting to buy. You also see like experimental budgets being opened up for startups, for people who are experimenting or just ideating about with their product, and they want enterprises to be design partners. We are seeing more enterprises being open to it, so that they are at the forefront of their particular category, their particular field. So I think that is something that is really promising. It's not just helped Gen AI first companies, it's also helped the classical ML companies. Because the classical ML companies, historically, a lot of our application companies never used to say we are AI first. There are companies like Tractable, Lilt, even Clearbit, which was recently acquired by HubSpot, never used to say we are AI first. But because they are solving a core pain point, and now they're able to call themselves AI first companies as well, because fundamentally they are using classical ML. They might not be using generative AI, but they are using classical ML, which enterprises never were open to considering or thinking about or even like delving deeper into. They are getting more traction in the market. So we've seen like a lot of our classical ML companies also get more traction in the last 1 year. But at the same time, because of those like limited number of interesting opportunities, we do see like some amazing practitioners end up building features versus products. And I think if you're in a hurry to raise capital without doing enough market discovery, you will stumble onto some exciting insight about the market. That doesn't mean that exciting insight is always transferable to a product. You have to think about like what is enduring. If you build that particular thing, what's next? Would that garner enough in terms of budget? Would that fit into a workflow? Would that service not just like the entry pain point, but what can that grow into in the future? I think there's less thinking around that right now, which just makes it feel that there's a lot of like overvalued companies that are features versus products. I'll just pause there.
Yeah, I agree, and I think of it this way. A few years ago, how many people remember when blockchain was really hot? Oh my God. So what the startups would do was sprinkle blockchain dust on the things that they were doing. And I would say out of 100 companies that said they were blockchain companies, 90% of them could have been using a federated database and didn't need to use blockchain or say they were using blockchain. And then this started happening with AI. People are sprinkling AI dust on things because AI was hot. And it was, the thing you had to do. And people had this impression, which was partly, but not entirely true, that would be easier to get funding if they were an AI company. But to your point, I mentioned before drug discovery and the fact that you can discover new molecules and new proteins. Those are biotech companies. They're not AI companies. They're biotech companies that use AI. And people are starting to realize that.
Completely agree. So I think I'm sure that, when you say spring the AI dust, it include getting just the domain name .ai would entitle you become an AI company.
I read that 25% of new companies have the .ai.
Okay, good. So I guess I don't want to repeat the same point. So it's like essentially, there's a lot of noise here, and so my actually instead of giving you what I see here, I want to just give some advice here. So for those entrepreneurs who are here in the audience here, focus on building companies. Focus on the fundamentals. The way we want to invest in there are three areas we want to look at is product, market, and team. These are the things that you want to focus on. And you happen to have an AI kind of advantage, use it, but that's not going to be your end goal, if that makes sense. So to support my argument, we started investing in AI before this hot trend. We started investing in 2017, 2018. And two of my companies just exited last year. They're not strictly AI companies. One of them is a robotic company, one is a fintech company. But they do use AI as part of the fundamental kind of driving technologies to provide a product. So that's kind of like, the fundamental that you need to focus on. And going forward, I think, we talked about having focus on potential, find a valid problem that you want to focus on, and just tackle it from that angle. I think that will serve you very well from now on.
Yeah. So, of the companies that I am seeing going through, I would say probably half my software companies that have dealt with that dust, right? Mm-hmm. I would say a majority of them, and some of them, one exited last year to Apple. They are in the either the medical space or in the data processing space, meaning this one was video processing or image processing or something like that. Do you see certain industries taking advantage of AI better than others? And you don't have to all answer this question. We can just do a couple and then move on to the next question.
Yeah.
Deborah, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you were talking about mobility and vehicles, which is definitely an industry, and things related to that, robotics, drones. The industry, so those are products. The industries themselves are things like advanced manufacturing. There are companies that can really use AI to examine silicon chips as they're going down the line and look at everyone instead of 1 out of 1,000 to find defects. So, things like that seem so practical and maybe to people who aren't in manufacturing seem kind of mundane, but it's actually really important. And the same thing is true in medicine. It's not just biotech, which I had mentioned before, but it's personalized medicine. It's managing the shifts of the nurses and the other techs in the hospital because things go crazy when things don't work out right. And so there are just some really practical things in healthcare, in biotech, in manufacturing, in mobility that are I think particularly ripe. There are also some specialized uses of machine learning and AI, which do not take advantage of really generic kinds of artificial intelligence. There's a company I really like called Citrine. They have the biggest database of chemicals and materials in the world. And they can do things like, instead of having a PhD scientist sit at his desk and examine things and research things for a couple of months to find a new material, this AI can find a kind of steel that has very specific properties, and they can do it in hours. And so there's some they use a very specialized form of machine learning and AI because it's specific to those kinds of problems. And so I think one of the things about looking at different industries is that the way you use models, the way you train data, the manner in which you create the AI system is going to vary. It won't be the same in every industry.
Yeah, go ahead, Darwin.
Okay. So I want to just add on that. I think in the previous panel, it's about climate tech and energy. So one of the speakers talks about using AI as the foundational technologies to support some of the emerging trends. So one of our companies actually is doing that. It's a company called Aether Biomachines. And what they do, they're actually developing a novel way for extracting lithium out of water. So they are building actually a enzyme platform. So for those who are not familiar with enzymes, enzyme is the nature's biofactory. So they can be engineered in order to create potentially new materials, new medicines. And in this case here, they're actually using that enzyme to extract lithium from brines and then potentially area that have the concentration, a low concentration of water, but actually you can actually use that technology to extract lithium. So lithium, I think right now we talk about climate change and all that. The idea is that, yes, lithium is not in short supply, but in a couple of years, the battery, the demand for lithium right now could be actually facing a shortage. And the current mechanism to mine lithium is coming out from areas that are a lot of this, what we call indigenous area, that potentially affect the local area. So going back to my original point is that these guys actually build a platform that includes not only the AI algorithm, they have a fully automated robotics lab that actually allow them to generate data to create this mass amount of data so that they can train and look for that potentially new lithium enzyme in order to create that. So going back to my original problem, find a problem that is worth solving as opposed to just do AI for the sake of AI. I think that will serve you very well going forward.
So two quick comments, if quick. Because our firm works a lot with corporations, I wanted to make this comment. The first one is that what I'm seeing more so than in years past is that most large corporations already had AI groups, right? But these groups were focusing primarily in inward-facing processes. The generative AI, I mean, so what we have seen over the past 14, 18 months is causing corporations to start either rethinking, reimagining outward-facing processes. And that's something that we hadn't seen in a very long time. The second quick comment I was going to make is that I'm seeing many of the corporations that work with us, as well as others that our startups work with, starting to think about how AI can be used for programming, software engineering. And I said, because I've been in the field for a very long time, there have been a lot of attempts in the past to apply AI to software engineering, and most of them have been failures or have been good for writing academic papers, but not to really scale them. This time around, we may actually have a chance. And that's a big deal, given A, how much we rely on software, B, how much software already exists that needs to be refactored, needs to be rethought. So that could be a big win here.
I actually know several people who do programming using AI, and it saves them hours and hours and hours of work. It's already happening.
I kind of see it as like who could adopt AI today and easily and as a part of their capabilities, and what are the net new AI native workflows. So when you think of any company in the past, like it used to be hard for them to build a model, train a model, deploy a model. With Gen AI, and that's just unstructured data, so it's not structured data, but with unstructured data itself, you've been able to get pre-trained models. Now, when you get a pre-trained model, whether if you're a software incumbent, whether you're a Salesforce, HubSpot, whoever you are, you'll easily layer on those capabilities. So one thing that we always think about is whether it's any domain or vertical, what can incumbents do in those spaces? So we know that like a lot of these incumbents can be ahead of the game by purely embracing these Gen AI capabilities. So what can be disrupted? I think the big piece that can be disrupted, what we believe, are actually what human beings do. Like historically, what human beings did could not be disrupted by software because software used to be a one-size-fits-all. When you think of like a workflow of a rep in an organization, whether it's like a sales workflow or you think of a developer workflow who's doing development, every organization has their own complex needs, have their own unique needs. Software, any incumbent software that they use is 5 to 10% of a part of their workflow. Rest of their entire workflow is very bespoke, is very custom to what they do and what their organization needs. Today, using agents, you can productize a lot of that, and you can make it very custom to what that organization needs. So it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to grab a lot of value from that 90 to 95% of the workflow, which could never be addressed by software before. That's where you start. I think that's something where you can start disrupting today itself. We don't think that you should go after what incumbents are doing today. Maybe as you start capturing and gaining trust from more and more of that workflow, eventually you can displace those software products, but you don't need to start with those software products today. So I think that's kind of one core area or one core belief, and those human workflows exist across functions, across verticals, across different domains. And I think those are the ones that we are kind of looking out for, that what can be productized now versus what couldn't be before.
Okay, so I know we don't have forever. Where'd Rob go? He had a sign a minute ago. So I think I have time for a couple more questions. I want to ask you to tell everybody about the most exciting investment, like the one that you're really thrilled about. Just one, hopefully not two, because there might be a tie. But pitch it. Tell us about the company that you're most excited about, or if it's somebody else's investment, you can tell that. You don't have to tell us. But yeah, could each of you give the story behind the one that's making you most excited at night?
I already told the story, but I guess I have another company I can talk about. So this is another AI drug development company we invested in. It's called Pragma Bio. So essentially, they're building cancer drugs that are based on microbiome. For those who are not familiar with microbiome, it's your gut bacteria. So there's a lot of health benefits that are known, but you just don't know why they're so good. So now this company is using AI to basically rebuild the blueprint of these benefits based on genetic signatures. And from there, they build a potential cancer drug that can actually treat cancer based on the microbiome capability and using synthetic biology. So one of the key things that they're successful is not because of the AI algorithm. One thing I didn't mention is really they have a strong partnership with the data. The model is as good as your data, and where you get your data is the key. They have a partnership with the data from MD Anderson Cancer Center based in Texas, and that's where all they got their proprietary data, and that's where they create that advantages. So that's something I'm really proud of what they have to achieve already.
Well, I already told you about Citrine, which is one of the companies I couldn't invest in, but really liked. So I'll tell you about another one I met a while ago and did not invest in, but it's so exciting, and I think it's representative of the kind of things we want to continue to see. It's an Indonesian company that was started by a data scientist. He was visiting a rural countryside with his father and happened to visit some rice farms. He was not a farmer himself. And he was visiting rice farms and was talking to the farmers and realized that they were planting at the same time their grandparents had planted, and they were harvesting at the same time that their grandparents or great-grandparents had harvested without any other consideration. There's no context taken at all. And so he developed a platform to help rice farmers understand the context using data science and AI and analytics to take in all of the publicly available data about weather, about wind, about sunshine, about rain, about how wet the fields were, and the varieties of rice that were being used, and put that all together, and he was able to increase yield by 30%. 30% increase in yields of basic food crop in Southeast Asia is just mind-blowing, and I just want to see more deals like that.
It's one of my more recent investments. It's in the infrastructure of the picks and shovels space, which helps you, which is a critical part of the developer tool chain that helps them deploy these large language models in production. And a big challenge that most developers face today is ensuring that these models don't hallucinate in production, just because like these models are stochastic in nature. Even if you perfect the prompt, even if you have the best prompt in the world that is the accurate prompt, you still might get a different output. So there's an open source framework called Guardrails AI, which you can apply that framework to the raw output of the LLM. and it's a library, it's an open source library, and it controls for different kinds of issues in the output, for PII, for quality, for structure. It ensures that the model is reliable and robust in production, and also safe at the end of the day, because you're not leaking PII data in production. It's founded by a team of ML practitioners from Apple, Predibase, and DataRobot. So that's an exciting company.
So I won't talk about recent investments because we're excited about them, but we don't have results yet. But I will mention again, in this company, Divergent 3D that I mentioned, the one thing that I didn't mention, which has us particularly excited, is the fact that by doing what they're doing, they are reducing the weight of vehicles by 85%, which has big implications on gas mileage. So which means that even with an internal combustion engine, you can do a lot. You don't have to necessarily move to battery electric or hybrid vehicles. But the other company I wanted to mention is a UK company we've invested in called Humanizing Autonomy. And what Humanizing Autonomy does is they have developed a combination of symbolic description system that describes human motion, and they combine it with a neural network. And by combining these two approaches, they are able to predict various events that can happen in the path of a vehicle. For example, a pedestrian jumping into the path of the vehicle because they're not paying attention that the vehicle is coming in, or a bicyclist cutting in front of the vehicle from the side. And the big deal is that they have been able to take the system and shrink it enough to make it operational on dash cams. That means that you can do a lot of reasoning at the very edge of the network, operating on a processor that a dash cam has, which is not, it's not like having a GPU or that you have in a big data center. So particularly excited about the prospects of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, panel. You exceeded all expectations. If you have questions for our panel, step up to the mic, ask away. Once again, this is not a pitch event, so do not deliver a pitch or a thinly disguised pitch. If you deliver a pitch or a thinly disguised pitch, you will have to deal with Joe, our bouncer. Enough said. First question.
So we are a mental wellness company who uses AI to personalize the solutions for the employees, because we sell mostly B2B to companies as an employee wellness solution. And we also use AI to customize it to the HR solutions, as well as right now we are being asked to do something for the cancer patients. What do you see the future of this kind of a market for mental wellness for using AI?
Oh, the market for mental wellness.
Yes, using
it's a
AI.
whole category.
Mm-hmm.
It's an entire category of investing. I don't know if anyone here has invested in those things. I have not. But it is an entire category of investing, and a lot of it has to be looked at as a form of telemedicine. My father was a therapist, so I do pay attention to these things. And it is possible to do a number of things that either require connecting to a human in some way, or there are a lot of ways to assess somebody's state, even the early stages of Alzheimer's, possibly, by looking at the face, by looking at the eyes, and also, I just met a company that can do it by analyzing speech. And so there are a lot of ways that AI and analytics can look at a human, look being a loose term, and draw some conclusions that are actually quite valid.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've invested in a company called Jiminy Health, which helps expand the bandwidth of the mental health therapists, so that they can engage 24/7 and they can engage with more number of people. It's not a enterprise. It's not a employee-focused company, but I think there are a lot of existing models for, like, historically what mental health companies have done by collecting enough data from employers and backward integrating with health plans and selling to health plans directly. So I think there's a big market for that.
Thank you.
So we are an e-commerce platform And being a founder of a startup, my worry is that we are focusing on some problem areas and trying to solve some pain points in e-commerce space. But at the same time, everybody's talking about AI, and all these companies with .ai domain are coming. So I'm scared that if I keep focusing on the pain points and building a platform which solves some problems in the e-commerce space, will I be left behind if I'm not focusing on? So we are still using AI. We are user of AI, but we are not AI-focused platform.
What are you asking?
So should I continue to focus on the pain points, or should I change the direction and focus more on the AI?
Darwin already told you, so go ahead and say it again.
You should focus on actually not just the pain point. Focus on the customers. What are they trying to use your product for? Build a product that will satisfy their needs. If it is something where it's lacking for whatever reasons, look and see how AI can help you. I think that should be your attitude towards approaching the problem, as opposed to put AI first, then customer second. I think that's my recommendation there.
Okay, thank you.
I have a suggestion too. So what I see a lot in this type of space is the knife edge is, do you have access to data? Like looking at the details of your business, if you are generating really good data, then you will be able to produce great AI. It'll be an important part of your business. If you really don't have a good view on data, then the people who do are going to have a big advantage over you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, my question has to do with some of the social implications of all this technology, stability and whatnot. For example, truck drivers. I'm not a truck driver, but the truck drivers in America, I think, are all going to be without a job very quickly, and that's millions and millions and millions and millions of people. Even higher tech jobs are being lost. And so I'm just kind of curious how, maybe Deborah, this is a question for you, the social implications of this. I'm already seeing a lot of social instability in America already. I think the tech is great, but I'm just wondering about stability in society.
Yeah, I love questions about the social implications of AI and jobs and what people will do for work and how work will be done, because I give lectures on Industry 4.0. So if you look at the industrial revolutions of the last 100, 150 years, you can go back to what happened when factories were created in the 19th century, then when the assembly line was created by Ford, then when computers were invented, then when, mainframes and just every revolution. And the Industry 4.0 revolution had more to do with the intersection of the digital with the physical worlds, and that applies to manufacturing, but also other endeavors. And in every single one of these flips, when every single one of these breaking points and trends, the exact same question was asked by people, every single time, the same question. So you can ask that question now, but the answer won't be any different. The answer is things will evolve. There'll be other jobs. They might not be the same jobs, but society will move forward.
May I just think that the pace is
the pace of change is faster.
fast, and
That is absolutely true. The pace of
biggest-
change is a lot faster than it ever was for everything, for the way we work, for the amount of change, for the things that are being created and the things that are being invented. It's absolutely true, but the fundamental answer is still the same.
Let me add to this, if I could. About 4 years ago, I was invited to give a talk at the European Union's Center for Employment about the impact of AI. And at that time, we were not thinking about generative AI. We were just thinking about AI. And one of the points that what struck me in the conversation that ensued after the presentation was that there was very little thinking that was being put about how do we prepare for these changes, which may be happening faster or not. And how actually we start differentiating not only by profession, truck driver, programmer, whoever, but really by population segment, if you will, by age. So the the needs of a 45-year-old or the segment that is between 45 and 55 are very different than the segment between 20 and 35, let's say, right? So we need to start thinking about that as a society, as groups, professional groups. That thinking is absent today. We complain a lot. To Deborah's point, I'm going to be out of a job, but I can tell you, again, we do a lot of work in mobility, and I can tell you that for every truck driver, that is projecting to be out of a job, I will say they may be projecting to be out of a cabin, right, the truck cabin, but they will be needed to teleoperate trucks. Now, that means that you don't have to travel, 4 days a week being away from your family, and maybe you don't get to have greasy food along Interstate 5, but you will still do truck driving. It's just that you will do it very much like drone pilots do today, right? They're not flying F-16s, but they are in some room, and they're doing equally challenging missions, and they have less chance of being killed.
Thank you.
Am I audible now? Okay, good. I work in cybersecurity. So my question to you guys is, at what point do you consider cybersecurity risks in your investment decisions? And during the life cycle of your investments, how do you guide the companies that you're guiding and investing in Gen AI or AI capabilities to be more secure, reliable, and privacy-centric?
So we look at several types of risk every time that we look at the investment. From the technology, not all of the portfolio companies are data collectors. A lot of them are data processors, right? Which means that somebody else has the responsibility for collecting that data and making sure that it adheres to whatever regulation that particular type of data needs to adhere. AI systems introduce new types of cybersecurity risk, and we, at the very least, because we invest in early stage, we want to make sure that our founding teams understand those risks, and if we sense that they don't, we typically pair them with one of the members of our advisory board that tend to be technologists in large corporations to set them straight or educate them.
So I just want to add, I think because you talk about cybersecurity, so one area that we want to focus on is AI safety. So one of the things that I didn't talk about is one of the key interests is that I think with the ChatGPT, there comes a lot of potential problems, and the idea called hallucination, and potentially all the deepfakes and all that are occurring in the media and all that. So focus on actually that angle. If you want to just build an AI company around that, try to solve that problem. I think that would be very interesting or impactful, at least to us. We've seen a lot of cybersecurity kind of deal that come through. All they try to look at mining at the packet level, the data level, and the control and all that. You don't really need AI for those in particular. I mean, again, it's just focusing on the problem. But if you try to apply AI, I think there will become potential opportunities, and also the idea called compliance, for different industries, the data integrity and all that. That could be an interesting area that you can focus also.
Apoorva and I have a VC friend named Ashmit Sadana at Engineering Capital who invested in a company called Robust Intelligence. And I didn't invest in them, but I did do an alliance with them at IBM. They can detect fraudulent AI models. They can find an AI that is lying or that criminals are using. For example, it is possible to have a voice response system that thinks your voice is mine. Absolutely possible. Yeah. In fact, they can have a face reco system that thinks your face is mine. And this company can detect those things and a lot more. So now they're working with the government and with large corporations. And so the idea of safety and catching those criminals, I have a friend at a different VC firm who invests a lot in cybersecurity. And last time I saw him, I asked him what would be the big trend, and he said catching those criminals.
I have one more area that I've been recently excited about in cybersecurity, which is how do you automate tasks for SecOps and Sec engineering? Because Sec engineering themselves, like they do hundreds of things within a company, and all of those are like small tasks, and a lot of them can be automated using agents. So I think that's one opportunity area that I'm exploring right now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Soufiane Ajana. I'm the CEO and founder of Retinov, which is a company that prevents blindness due to macular degeneration. By launching machine learning and LLMs. And so my question is, when you are in the healthcare space, so maybe like more for you, how do you do to go with these algorithms that are LLMs and make them FDA compliant? Like apply them to the medical field while controlling for the hallucination. Like you talked about like a kind of tool that your open source company is doing. That's great. But like, what is the next step? What can we do to make this approved by the FDA and to make it clinically validated?
Yeah. I think in the healthcare space, it all depends on like what the application of the LLM is. I think there are in healthcare, there are commercial applications, which is on marketing, which is on distribution. There is on R&D. There are different kinds of applications. If you are actually doing drug discovery, right now the drug discovery companies are so early that they are. One of our companies is doing creating a protein language model to predict the next target that you can go after in antibody design. Now, when some of those antibodies get into trials, that's when we'll have to figure out like what part of that supply chain needs to be regulated. Right now, they're just trying to make the job of a person who's identifying that target as productive as possible. You would have done the same thing with brute force, but now it just makes it faster, it makes it more efficient. At the end of the day, the end product, which is the drug itself, is taken to the FDA process. The entire approach of like creating that drug is scrutinized. It's still yet to be seen like what part of that gets scrutinized when it gets automated.
There are different forms of AI. So generative AI does make mistakes, and there are industries where you can tolerate some mistakes, and there are other industries where you cannot tolerate any mistakes. And so the form of AI used needs to be appropriate for the industry, and there are plenty of ways in biotech and in medicine to use AI in ways that are safe.
Yeah. So I'm probably dealing with half a dozen companies right now that are AI companies in the medical space, and the FDA is, from speaking as an attorney now, is really if it uses AI, you have to be talking to the FDA because you're not just gonna slip by under the radar. The FDA is very aware of this, and it's just gonna be one more step for those types of companies. But some of my favorite AI companies are dead on in the medical space. They're doing great stuff. Yeah.
So actually, I think on top of it, so I think there's a potential tangential or opportunity. So going through the FDA trial, whether it's a medical device or drug, is a long and arduous process. It's not like a one thing that you can do. So I've seen potential tools that allow you to think of it as a planning tool. If you have a potential drug molecules that you want to bring to the market here, what type of clinical trials you need to go through and all that. So basically, there are tools that allowed you. We have talked about it, where plan out the entire process here. What kind of clinical trial patients that you need to enlist and all that. So essentially, that tool itself is not necessarily FDA. Don't need FDA approval, right? But at the end of the output is that you would generate FDA documents or requirements so that you can fit the FDA for a particular drug development, medical device, and all that. So that's actually one potential area. And actually, I draw this idea from a lot of these. There's a legal AI company where actually they have read through tons of legal cases in the case to help out a lawyer just to prepare something where they say, what's my next step? So that's what the Gen AI, right? What you give a prompt, they say, help me, what's my next step? in order to given what you know about what I have in mind, right? To help that in that journey, if you will. That could be a potential application that you can think of.
However, there's a kind of a meta lesson here, if we can call it, which is in every field, whether it is healthcare, whether it is transportation, or other fields which require regulatory approval, every government has a problem right now because the people who are doing the regulation are not particularly plugged into where the particularly AI technology is. So rather than dissuading you from doing something that you want to do, particularly if you have found a particularly good opportunity, is to say, be prepared that this may be a long process, but also know that this is not, you're not the, your field is not the only one that is facing this kind of problems. But we do, every government right now is scrambling in terms of how to have the regulatory bodies be up to date with what they need to regulate, because increasingly more and more of these products and services have AI embedded in them.
Thank you. All right. We have time for just two more quick questions, I think.
Hi, my name is Preeti Padmanabhan. I actually am involved a lot in AI, both as a marketing leader and I've invested in a few companies. My question is about bias in AI. Recently, I had attended a few talks where an expert had talked about how there is bias with the ethnicity or a certain profile, like United Healthcare had a big lawsuit against them because they denied claims using AI, certain profiles. So are you seeing any companies that are actually proactively solving this? Either they're already existing companies or new companies that you see in your coming list?
I'm sorry, it's hard to hear. Are you asking about fire?
Bias.
Bias. Oh, bias.
Yeah.
Oh. When I was at IBM, we had a product on the market a few years ago that was looking for bias in models. And there's quite a bit of bias based on gender or race or language, depending on what's happening. And there definitely are systems that try to eliminate that. It's not a solved problem. There are people who have things that make it better. It's not completely solved.
Mr. Evangelos and Deborah mentioned that people are writing programs with AI. I am old-fashioned. I use my brain. And the process of evolution is such that it can go reverse. If you don't use a part of your body, you lose it. We don't have tails because monkeys stopped using tails. So are we going to have, in few thousand years, are we going to have babies without brain?
What? What is it?
Because we are not using it.
Did you catch it?
No.
We stopped using it.
Come over here and just say that to us, because the mic is hard to understand.
Yeah, I am saying that we are not using brains anymore. So are we going to have babies without brains in few? Because human evolution can go reverse. We lose parts of the body.
You should read Isaac Asimov and Ray Bradbury, and don't worry about it. My short answer is don't worry about it.
I think you're assuming that the AI won't be implanted.
I think I don't know if you've heard Jan LeCun, but he gives a very interesting example of the printing press, and he talks about like how when the printing press came about and the cultures that supported the printing press and those that did not support the printing press, because that was the same question at that time as well. And the Ottoman Empire completely vanished when they did not support the printing press. They didn't really support the idea of people who are smarter. So I think what AI is doing today is just making people smarter, more intelligent. So we just believe that if you're a manager in a company and if you have smarter people reporting to you, you will become a more effective manager at your job. So that's the evolution in which we are kind of moving towards, right? We're becoming more intelligent beings with AI. And I think it's not going to go reverse, in my opinion. It's going to evolve in the positive direction.
I gave you a very flippant answer, so I'll give you a calmer answer, which is IBM in research, not on the public markets, in research was developing a system that includes chips and software that is organized the way the brain is organized. So computer systems usually have the computing and the memory separate, but the brain is not like that. Memory and the processing power, they're all part of the same structures. And what they've discovered about the brain is that there are cores of synapses and nerves and so forth in different parts of the brain that have different functions, sometimes very fine-grained. And so these researchers are developing computer systems to mimic the structure and the way information is processed in the brain, which is very promising because what they can do is they can't really, tell what's going on in this room, but they could tell the sensation of hot or green. And they did have systems using these processors that were swimming in little robots in the ocean, analyzing the quality of the water. So there are advances in looking at the brain and seeing what is possible. It's not going to replace your brain, but it is an interesting area of study.
All right. Thank you very much. I think that concludes this panel. If you want to speak with the panelists,
Steve.
If you want to speak with the panelists, please just approach them.
So-
I, for one, am available on LinkedIn.
We all are.
We probably all are, so send a nice note. Thank you
Do you
very
guys want to
much.
give out your contact info if you want to be contacted by anyone in the audience?
Yeah, I'm easy. Stephen Colby, I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. Except my picture is a lot younger.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's give up for our panelists and for Steve, our awesome moderator.